Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed, that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either reinforce good play patterns or identify areas for improvement for the purpose of tightening and improving our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming Skirmish and ProQuest season, and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, and you could receive bonus DFG content every week. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. I also now am on X, and if you would like to see memes, inane comments, and the occasional self-promotion, head on over to X and follow Lupine Fiasco. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. US Nationals has just concluded, and because this video is pre-recorded, I have no idea how I did. For all I know, you are watching the US National Champion commentate a losing game on Talishar. But what's more likely is I had a fun time and didn't win, but still did okay and feel good about it. And that tournament report is going to come later this week. And for today, as I said, we have a losing game against New. New finally figured it out, finally got there. It was extremely close. I'm excited to review this game with all of you because I am positive there was a way to turn this into a win, and we are going to find those small value leaks that resulted in a loss. So, reviewing the new strategy. This is a Sash matchup. We want to have a very explosive pop-off turn with Blood Rush Bellow, or at the very least compensate for having to fire a 4-card Blood Rush because our hand was disrupted. This is not a Cast Bones matchup, as we don't want to take the time to set up. We would rather fire off damage, and we are not playing our clashes because we don't want to block. New is very disruptive and can pull cards from our hand with Surgical Extraction, Siren's Call, Persuasive Prognosis, Bonds of Agony, and she has attack reactions in Hiss, Venomous Bite, Arousing Wave that get her over the top of our blocks to hit our arsenal with CNC or Leave No Witnesses. So in general, if we are blocking, we are playing into New's game plan of punishing us for doing so. And while we might be tempted to play a mid-range game where we block with 2 cards and attack with 2 cards, the issue being that if we blocked New's Surgical Extraction for 6, and she reacts over the top of that and gets to take a 3rd card from our hand, it's very likely that we don't have anything to do on our turn. Either we are going to arsenal and pass, or worst case, we have a 2-cost 6 in our arsenal, and New leaves us with a red card in hand so that we can do literal nothing on our turn. Meanwhile, if we take damage from the Surgical Extraction, New banishes a card from our hand, we still have 3, potentially 4 cards within our arsenal to play with, and we can just outvalue her. Surgical is a bad rate. All of her reactions are bad rates. We have very good rates. It's what Kayo does, and so we are just going to race New. I've talked about this to death. All I've been playing on Talishar are News, so we are just going to jump into the game and start looking at how we lost this one. It starts with losing the die roll. Obviously, we don't have control over that, but it is unfortunate. We would like to go second in this matchup if we can, and this is a big part of it. Our hand is terrible for offense. Really, the best thing we could do with this hand is roll Scab Skins and hope to hit 4, 5, or 6, send Pack Hunt, Runner, and just push a little damage this turn. But honestly, I'm so trained not to roll Scabs that I don't even see it. Between sending Runner or Pack Hunt, Runner is the better choice, but just by a marginal amount. Realistically, Nu is likely to have 3 or 4 3-blocks in her hand, so regardless of which 2 for 6 we send, she is going to be able to block it. There is a potential for Nu to have multiple Transcend instants in her hand and have Pack Hunt actually deal damage that Nu can't block, but it's more than likely that Nu can block either one. So that being the case, Pack Hunt is a better card to save for the end of a Wild Ride Claw 2 for 6 chain, as opposed to Runner, which is unlikely to have additional benefits on offense. So if I was making this choice now, I would roll Scabs. But if I was just going to send a 2 for 6, it would be Runner, and I would arsenal the Pack Hunt. That said, we are going to arsenal the Runner and see what we can do with our next hand. Which isn't much, unfortunately. This hand is also very bad. So we do want to block. We're not going to block Mistblade, but we are likely to block whatever the follow-up is, because we can afford to give a card on defense and a second card to Surgical Extraction and still do something on our turn. We can block with a Wrecker Romp. If Nu plays a Siren's Call, she gets another blue from our hand, and we get to block out the Surgical Extraction. If Nu plays a reaction over the top of our 3-block, well, that's fine, we were taking damage anyway. What is likely to happen is that Nu will just let the Surgical resolve and then either dagger for 1 or play this last card in her hand. I like blocking with Wrecker Romp here. If Nu takes a blue, we CNC. If Nu takes the CNC, we Runner from Arsenal and Arsenal Smash Instinct, or we Smash Instinct for 5 and keep the Runner. Either way, we do 5 or 6. But I don't know that we need to block with more than one card. If we wanted to, the line would be block with Command and Conquer, because if we block with second Wrecker Romp, well, that's good value from us, but Siren's Call takes our 3rd blue, and now we can't do anything on our turn. So I like blocking with Wrecker Romp. There is a world where we block with Smash Instinct, so that Surgical can only banish a Wrecker Romp for Nu to play with her hero power. That said, if Nu does take our CNC with the Surgical effect, we have 2 Wrecker Romps that we can't play because we need 3 cards for Wrecker Romp to work, which means that our turn is play Runner from Arsenal and either pass with no Arsenal or Arsenal a Wrecker Romp, and those are both bad options. So Surgical getting to take a Smash Instinct from us is unfortunate, but the alternative is even worse. Got an already dead coming in for 6. Our option here is either block 6 or attack for 6. I don't mind blocking 6 as CNC has no target. I would rather just get some defensive value, reset. It is unlikely that Nu can find more disruption. Now this is how Nu wins, is just chaining disruption together, but at the same time, she needs to find it. She has a lot of draws in her deck that just don't get there. We aren't going to block the Mistblade. We're unlikely to block the Mistblade for a while. We need Nu to be on a smaller card count so that we can get a decent idea of what she's doing with the Mistblade. We've got a Levels of Enlightenment for 4. Go again, draw a card. We still don't need to block this vanilla damage. I'm not really looking at fleshbagging here. I want to save fleshbag for when we think we can hit a reaction that is actually impactful. Got a Persuasive Prognosis for 1, excuse me. So if we are thinking about what New could have as the follow-up to this, we are looking at pitch a blue for maybe a hiss or a venomous bite. If we flesh bagged here, New goes down to 1 card in hand. The only thing she could do to get over the flesh bag is just a nick. And if it is just a nick, there actually is a pretty good chance of Prognosis being able to hit our Blood Rush. So how do we actually want to block this? I think blocking with the E-Strike is actually okay. That does open up our hand to pitch Wild Ride to play Blood Rush, discard Beast Within, draw up to 3 cards. If the Prognosis gets over the top through a reaction, if we lose a yellow, we still have the runner line by pitching whatever yellow New leaves us with, and then Arsenal Wild Ride. If it hits a red, we get to pitch Beast Within to send runner Arsenal Blood Rush, and if New hits a blue, nothing happens. So I actually do like blocking with E-Strike here. If we keep 4 cards and New hits a red, banishes the if she hits a red, either way we get to Blood Rush. If she hits a yellow, takes our Blood Rush, and we have these 3 cards with runner, we get to E-Strike for 5, go again, runner. So I understand not blocking here, but I think blocking with E-Strike actually is the line I like most. New hits us with the Mask. We are going to banish the E-Strike. If we had walked into this line blocking with E-Strike, we would banish the Wild Ride. At this point, I think we Blood Rush, take the line that I had described. It's a little unfortunate that we don't have Sash available to break. At the same time, this is not a good Sash hand. I don't like playing second Blood Rush. I like holding my Blood Rushes and spacing them out. So what I am doing here is Mandible Claw for 5, go again, pitch CNC to runner for 8, and then arsenal this second Blood Rush and look to set that up on my next turn. Generally, 2 Blood Rushes are unlikely to do significantly better than 1 Blood Rush, and the worst case is that you draw 2 reds and then your turn is like Claw runner, which is threatening a lot of damage, but you want to space your Blood Rushes out where possible. Surgical for 4. We can easily hit this with Flesh Bag and Sash. Then we are just putting New on not having a Hiss or Venomous Bite in the arsenal. She could have Grain that tips the scale as well, but I think she is more likely to have that reaction. So do we want to play around it? I think we can make this block just fine with Flesh Bag and Sash and try to keep 4 cards. And if we do get to keep 4 cards, we can even discard Agile Windup at the end of New's turn to have a better Blood Rush. New having the Siren's Call was pretty good. She is going to take one of our blues. I don't know that we could have played around this had we blocked with just Flesh Bag. New does not need to play the Siren's Call and can still take one of our blues. We're still going to have a fine turn. It just means that we aren't discarding Windup to make agility. Though what I am more likely to do with this hand now is not fire off Blood Rush. I just want to send packing for 7 and then discard Windup to make my agility and set up. We are forcing New to do something if she wants this Hiss back, while also preparing for a better Blood Rush on our next turn. So New going down to 2 cards. playing Prognosis. Unfortunately, we know that New has Hiss in hand, as well as Tunic available. So if we block with Scabskins, New can Tunic Hiss. If we block with... The best line here, what we should do, now that I am taking a better look at this, I believe we should block with Runner and Send Packing. And why this? Well, so it's tricky. I would like to get down to a blue and a Beast Within so that Blood Rush Bellow will hit the Beast Within. What I think is probably going to be better is block with Runner and Bonebreaker. No. Let's block with Runner and Scabskins. We cover 4, we lose our Runner, we give New a point of life, and she gets to Arsenal Hiss, but we know that she has the Hiss, and we can just roll the dice on this Blood Rush. I think if we block with the Scabskins, we force New to use the Hiss, which is what we actively want to do. This is a tough one. It's a tricky hand, and this is where New is chaining Disruption together, and we are having a difficult time adjusting to it. We really want to keep 5 cards, and we just can't. New does banish a blue off the top, so we lose our blue. We are going to roll the dice on this Blood Rush. Hope to discard the Beast Within, which we do. We draw into some very good cards. We don't need to sash here because between Mandible Claw, Runner, and Swing Big, that's 6 resources, which we have. So we can just Runner, Claw, Swing Big, really put the pressure on New's life total, and then move forward. Swing Big coming in for a resounding 10. Does just get New's entire hand. She gets a Quicken out of the deal, but we have solidly taken tempo. This is an interesting hand where we really want a blue to pay for this. What I think we can do instead is just pulping pitch Beast Within, push a 7 with guaranteed go again, potentially make another another might, and then what we're looking for is a blue to play whichever red we're stuck with, and if we keep both reds, then we just attack with Mandible Claw. You know, it's not a ton of damage, we're only threatening 10, but we keep our sash. And the alternative is Break Sash to send Pulping, pitch Runner, I guess is our best line. This is a really unfortunate hand to not have a blue with. I think the Sash, play Pulping, pitch Runner is good. It's just, this is a hard hand to get value out of. So we draw very well, where we will get to follow this up. I believe our best line here is just play Riled Up, pitch Wind Up, Arsenal Pulping. No, we do have Sash still on the table. So what we can do here is Mandible Claw, pitch Wind Up, attack with Riled Up, which is pushing 9 more points of damage. That wouldn't have worked either. Ollie, what a weird turn. We should Pulping here. Yeah, discard the Wind Up, and either, it would have been nice to get that Bare Fangs, and now we just attack with Riled Up. Put New down to a potential 1. What a weird hand. Really would have liked to get an Arsenal out of that. But I believe the line we took was correct. Otherwise, our Arsenal would have been like Riled Up. which is not a terrible card to have in Arsenal, but isn't exactly something I want in there. At this point, we have New down to 4. We are just looking for a way to push damage. Scale Peeler with the Overpitch tells me that this is Codex of Frailty, and with 2 floating, the pickup is probably Command and Conquer. So what we can do is let the Scale Peeler hit, for one thing. We don't block this. Once the Codex happens, we can discard Bare Fangs, then play a second Bare Fangs from... we discard Bare Fangs, grab Bare Fangs, block the CNC for 6, and then send Bare Fangs for 8 from Arsenal. If we wanted to... Ooh, no, sorry, I was confused. Okay, here's the actual line. Here's what I didn't see. We let Scale Peeler hit. New plays Codex. We see what New gets. We assume it's Command and Conquer. What we do is we discard Assault and Battery. New does grab CNC. We discard Assault and Battery. We pick up Beast Within. New probably leaves herself with this CNC in Arsenal. If she attacks with it, then we just take 6, we draw a card. If she doesn't attack with it, we attack with Bare Fangs, Pitch Smash Instinct, use the priority window to discard Mighty Windup to make a second Might, and Bare Fangs is attacking for 7 at a minimum, but probably 9. That's what we do. We grab Beast Within here. That's the line, considering that New has CNC, because we can take damage here to deal damage back, to deal bigger damage. Here we're going to mitigate the life loss by blocking CNC for 6, but our Bare Fangs in Arsenal is affected by Frailty, whereas our Bare Fangs in hand would not be. We would also potentially strand New with this CNC, which is better for us because we aren't, we might not Arsenal a card. And if we do Arsenal a card, we know what New is going to do. Bare Fangs discarding Bloodrush Bellow is incredibly tragic because we are losing 3 points of damage from the Bare Fangs, both not getting +2 and not making a Might. We are also losing out on a Blood Rush. Terrible luck, we could not anticipate that. We, taking the Beast Within line, if New had destroyed the Beast Within with CNC, we would have banished that Blood Rush, taken a little more damage, but then the Bare Fangs would be coming in for 9. So that is a massive value leak, and I didn't see that in the game, and I didn't see that editing this game down for posting, but ooh, that's a good one to consider. Alluring Mistblade coming in for 1 with Go Again, we need to consider what the follow-up is. New does have Tunic available, so a Persuasive Prognosis would be coming in for a maximum of 5, which we can block. A Bonds of Agony would be coming in for 2. New could use the Tunic to Stiletto, Slither, Flick Knives to get over the top. At that point, the Bonds would be coming in for 5, which we block. Surgical here comes in for 5, which we can block. And this is all to say that we should not block this Mistblade. This one I have thought about. We block the Mistblade to prevent the value from whatever blue comes next. But the problem is we lose the block from Bonebreaker, and we now need to potentially go down cards. We would like to hold on to cards here. We would like to be able to block this Bonds with E-Strike and Bonebreaker, then get to send Wild Ride Claw for 8. If we lose a card to the Bonds, which we have to block because, we don't block because this is going to be Tunic into Stiletto, Slither, Flick Knives. we would have to give 2 cards, and we can't give 2 cards because then New has the potential to take multiple cards from us, and we cannot then, play out a turn. Mask is first reaction, Stiletto is second, Flick Knives is third. New gets to Arsenal Slither, which means that we are going to lose a card. What we should drop here is tricky. It's a tough one. If this was Prognosis, it would be a little different. At this point, we banish a card, and then New gets to take a second card from us. And this is where, if we could block, we would have a lot more control over what New actually gets. Had we blocked with the E-Strike Bonebreaker, then we banish one of these 2 blues. At this point, I believe we banish a blue anyway. New can take our Wild Ride, we E-Strike. Wild Up, we E-Strike. E-Strike, we Wild Ride. We can banish Assault and Battery here. I think that is fine. If we banish the E-Strike, then New just takes our Wild Ride and we only get to send 5. At this point, we do lose the E-Strike. Our line here could be Mandible Claw, Arsenal Wild Ride, but I like presenting lethal. We also get a Might token out of the deal, so I think this is the correct play. It is just unfortunate that, once again, we are disrupted, so we don't get to follow this up with a Claw. This hand is very bad. Here we have a Double Trouble coming in for 1. We know that this is going to be 2 after New plays the Slither. But this is just taking cards off the top of our deck. We don't need to block the Double Trouble. We can block whatever the follow-up is. Pathwell traveled to give it go again and Transcend. New choosing to use the Hero ability rather than Shifting Nightmares. Smash Instinct is 5 with Intimidate. We aren't going to block this. This is a very neat turn that New is about to have. Keep in mind, we were at 20 at the start of this turn. Flick Knives flicking Mistblade to give the next blue +1 and go again is 6, and then New gets to end this turn with another 5 to put us to a potential 2. Very cool, very nice turn from New. I have not seen a New do this before, and I am really happy to have seen it done. So we could go to 2 here. New does not have a reaction that she can use, and she doesn't have Flick Knives. So we aren't dead this turn, and we are potentially not dead next turn. We can block with Pack Hunt Bonebreaker, go down to 6, and on our turn, we send Claw for 5, discard Mighty Windup, send Run Roughshod for 5. That is threatening 10 damage overall. That very likely gets 3 cards from New, and then New has 2 cards to play with, and we are at 6. Unlikely that she can kill us that way. If we don't block here, then we attack with Claw for 4, we discard Mighty Windup to give it go again, and then we attack with Pack Hunt for 6, Intimidate. The 4 probably gets a card from New, and she goes to 1. The Pack Hunt intimidates a card, gets 2 cards from New, she stays at 1 and gets to play with a 2-card hand, but we're at 2. So the best line here is to block with Bonebreaker Pack Hunt. We make a Might. We are still pushing 10 damage. We are threatening a lot of lethal, but we are at least keeping our life total healthy. New blocks with Flick Knives. Makes a lot of sense. It is now Iron Rot Gloves as she has no more daggers. We get to attack with Run Roughshod, likely takes Mask and a card from hand. Gets a Sink Below instead, same difference. Surgical Extraction for 4. This is a very interesting turn that we need to consider because we have 3 reds and a yellow. And if we had 2 yellows or a yellow and a blue, then how we block this makes a lot of sense. What we need to consider is Nu could have Venomous Bite or Hiss, and if we don't block, we lose the game. Problem is, what happens if we do block? We block with either Swing Big or CNC to keep ourselves alive after a Hiss or Venomous Bite, but the Surgical hits us, and Nu can banish our yellow, and then our turn is pitch 2 reds to Mandible Claw for 4. Nu can block that with Tunic and a card from hand, then have 3 cards to kill us. If we take this damage and Nu does not have the reaction, we either get to play a turn. What probably happens is Nu takes our yellow, we swing big for 9 by pitching our 2 reds, get 3 cards from Nu to live, and then hope that we can block whatever she does with 2 cards. So as likely as we are to be dead, we need to play to win. We don't play to not lose. Playing to not lose is blocking with one of these 3 blocks and then not having much of a turn. Playing to win is saying, if you have the reaction, I'm dead anyway. But if you don't have the reaction, I can catch you with cards that don't block. Nu has Transcended a couple times. Nu has she still has Transcend Instants in her deck. So it's entirely possible that if Nu doesn't have the reaction and we get to swing big for 9, that Nu just can't block it. Maybe we just win. But in any case, Nu doesn't have it. And so we do just get to swing big for 10. And at this point, we're putting the onus on Nu to be able to defend this. Unfortunately for us, she can. She does have the D-React. So we get 3 cards from her, but she does now have an active Tunic. It would have been nice to get a 3 block and the Tunic to limit her ability to play the game. But at the very least, our gamble paid off. Desires of the Flesh for 1 with Go Again. Again, we have to play around Nu not having the reaction. If we block from hand, Nu gets a follow-up anyway and gains a life off Desires, so we need to just hope for the best. I'm guessing the follow-up to this is going to be Codex, but it could be Leave No Witnesses, which we block. Again, it is unfortunate. We are just in a position where we need to make Nu have it. We cannot play around Nu having it and still have a way to win this game. So Nu does have the Codex. The fact that we don't have a Might, do have Frailty, and Nu has Tunic is terrible for us because we will not win with Pulping. If Nu was at 1 here, or we had a Might to cancel out the Frailty, Pulping for 6 would be enough to get around Nu's defense. But at this point, because Nu is at 2 and Pulping attacks for 5, a 3 block from hand plus Tunic keeps her alive. So our best pickup here, I think, is just Bear Fangs for 7. We grab Bear Fangs, we discard a Agile Windup, we block the Leave No Witnesses with 2 Send Packings, and then on our turn we 2-card 7, and don't get there, but hope to put ourselves in a position where we can get there on our next turn. Bear Fangs does hit. We have no more misses in our deck, so it was impossible for it to miss. But at this point, Nu can just give us 2 cards, go down to 1, and then kill us with 3. We draw the pulping. We have 3 blocks in hand. We can cover this for 6. Nu could have a reaction and kill us. It's likely that she does. Grain that tips the scales is going to be enough to get her there, unfortunately. So that is how we lose a game to Nu, is she does find the way to chain disruption into us basically every turn. I don't think there was a turn of this game where Nu did not disrupt our hand or arsenal in some way. And she can get there by having the massive Flick Knives turn, which I can't be mad about. That was very cool. We had a little bad variance. The Bear Fangs discarding Blood Rush off the top was catastrophic for us. At the same time, we had 2 very lucky Beast Within discards that put us in a commanding position to win the game. What really lost it for us, as I am seeing now, there were 2 mistakes we made. The first was not grabbing the Beast Within from our opponent's Codex of Frailty, where they grabbed Command and Conquer. Because either they play Command and Conquer and we get a card from the Beast Within, or they now don't play the Command and Conquer. We get to send Bear Fangs for 7 to 9. We get to make an extra might out of the deal. And we at least have this Beast Within an arsenal that we know can just sit there and wait for Nu to play CNC. The second mistake was blocking the Mistblade with the Bonebreaker that then put us into a position to get hit by the Bonds of Agony. It would not have affected the outcome of that turn. We would have still lost 2 cards. We would have still played Wild Ride, but we would have had an extra point of life, which in this situation, the last turn, lets us take 1 from the Grain that tips the scales and then kill Nu with pulping. So, glad we reviewed this, learned quite a bit from this game, learned how we can maximize that value, especially off of those codexes, and we lost a game to Nu. We finally saw how it happens, and we can take that information and move forward with it. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned as much as I did. If so, be sure to assault and batter that like button. My comments are always open for questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out. I have an X. I have a Patreon. The links to those socials are in the video description below. Until the next time I see you on Daily FaB Gameplay, take care.